What's up, everybody? I missed a couple things there. I actually missed the I had my mic on mute when I came on. How's everybody doing? Happy Sunday to you. We all know what that means. That means it is time for the live show. This is the day of the week where I take on a complete and total open format. The way we end up doing this is you ask questions, I do my best to provide answers. Jordan, no, they were not too sweet at all. They just then went down entirely too fast. Definitely the football. Man, there was a lot of good football to watch, but I could have. The ball game hurt me, man. It hurt me. I had real high expectations going into it. I mean, real high expectations. And after the first half, I mean, I tell you what, I was pumped. And then for it to end the way it ended was just brutal. Brutal. But it is what it is. I survived somehow, some way. But no, man, they came in this little 4-pack and they just went down way too easy. And I ended up going to bed pretty early after the ball game. Got caught up on everything else this morning. Beautiful thing about YouTube TV is that you can record all those games and then go back and check them the next day, which is what I did. Lakers play tonight in sports news. Thank you, Aldo. I haven't kept up with the NBA in a good, serious long time, so if people are into that thing. Look at this. Look at the lawn care monster. That's the problem with Volunteers fans. They always have too high expectations. Well, the good news is that we actually play soon. And that's going to be real exciting. I look forward to the UT Kentucky game. That's going to be a great time. We all know who's going to come out the victor there. So like I said, this is a live stream, and the way this typically works is an open format, meaning you ask questions, I provide answers. I will do my best to answer questions as completely and thoroughly as I possibly can, but a couple things we have to prerequisite here is, number one, I'm doing this all stream of consciousness. This is not scripted. This is me on the fly, trying to figure it out. I am fallible. I'm human. I do make mistakes. Therefore, I need you to fact check whatever it is that comes out of my mouth, because I may be thinking you have cool season grass and I give you an answer that would pertain to warm season grass. Just understand, I can get caught up while I'm doing this live action and end up making some mistakes. Also, on the flip side of that is, yeah. Never mind. We're good. I'm on delay. And so probably when you're hearing me speak is about 30 seconds behind where I speak. And then also I take questions in the order in which they come, meaning I start at the top of the chat and I run all the way to the bottom of the chat. And therefore it may take me 10 minutes to answer the first question, then another 10 minutes to answer the second question. So it may be 20 minutes before I even get to the third question. If I skip your question, I apologize in advance. I did not do it intentionally. I did it because... Can we ask questions about algebra? That's funny. Yes, we can ask questions about algebra. We can. We're just not going to talk any. I can't remember the different, like Pythagorean theorem and all that fun stuff. What's up, Seti Mac? How you doing, sir? So let's see, what else? What was I going to say? Oh yeah, if I skip your question, feel free to go back and ask it again. So, just, be patient with me, because oftentimes I make mistakes. With that said, I hope everybody else had a fantastic weekend. I know I did. I had a good one. I didn't really do anything particularly extreme. My wife did a lot of roller skating today. Yesterday, too. I've been working at the lab a lot. That's always a good time. For those of you that are members of the channel, I definitely kind of want to run some experiments that y'all want to see. Kevin Shepard had a good idea running 3 different soil types and measuring efficacy of different products according to those soils using using Kentucky bluegrass. That's what I was trying to say. So I'm definitely going to do that because I thought that was a great idea. It's something I can get behind. I'm totally into that. If you're interested in how to do that, there's going to be a join button somewhere down there. I don't know. It may be only on mobile. It may be only on desktop. I don't know. But if you hit that, you can sign up for whatever and contribute to where that the direction that goes. Yeah, making sure I've got everything set up on all my screens here. It looks like I'm good to go. All right, now that we have that figured out, we're gonna roll into this. And the way this typically goes, again, you ask questions, I do my best to provide answers. I'm gonna start at the top, work my way to the bottom. We'll see how long it takes me to go. So the first question I had that I noticed that came in that seemed like a legitimate question was by the Grass Thief. And the Grass Thief said, Matt, is the use of gypsum okay to soften up clay and hard soil, or do you have a better treatment? And this is kind of funny because one of my favorite things to do when I do the radio show would be my bow nose turf segment. Bow nose turf. All right, I'm gonna kill that. But you know, I started that whole thing because somebody asked to call in to speak to my radio manager, and they did, and so we decided to turn it into a bit, and that bit is bow nose turf. And one of the first things we talked about was actually gypsum to soften the soil. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to repeat this because I want to make it very clear. There's only a specific instance in which gypsum is going to be beneficial for you. Specific instances. If you're using gypsum to displace sodium, for instance, in modifying sodic soils, in that instance, yes, it can be effective. Is it necessarily softening the soil? You could kind of argue the debate of flocculation coming from the calcium. So just all in all, sodic soil. So you have soils high in sodium. And then the other would be if you have a high pH and low calcium. So say you have excessive magnesium and you're trying to bring up your calcium level, but you don't want to raise your soil pH. Then you would want to use something like gypsum, where you can raise your calcium levels without raising the soil pH. Gypsum has zero effect on soil pH. It's not going to lower it. It's not going to raise it. It's pretty much net neutral, right, when you make that application. Now, does gypsum soften the soil? No, absolutely not. Adding a bunch of calcium to the soil does not necessarily mean it's going to be softer. The only time it would be benefit for you is if you were critically deficient in calcium and then you add it to the soil, then it may fix things. So it's real simple. Pretty much every soil test across America is going to test for your calcium levels. Test your calcium levels, and you'll be able to make the determination whether or not it's going to fix whatever problem it is you perceive that you have. And as a general rule of thumb, I would say if you're less than 400 parts per million of calcium, that is when I would look at, if you're less than 400, that is where I would start making applications of something like gypsum. If, again, at the high pH spectrum, if I'm low pH and only have 400 parts per million, then I'm going to apply a lime, right? So no, gypsum will not soften up the clay. In terms of doing something better for it, truly the best way to quote unquote soften up clay is to get something growing on it. And you may say, well, how am I supposed to get something growing on it if it's rock hard? You would be stunned at what you can get growing on rock hard ground. I promise you, if I can grow tall fescue in the cracks of sidewalks, you can grow tall fescue on the hardest soil you could imagine in your front yard. It would just find a way to make it happen. I don't know where you are, Grass Thief, but I'm just making an example here. Don't shortchange the ability for grass to be able to perform in rather adverse conditions. So the fastest way to correct that is to get something growing on it. The root system of the plant will do more towards improving or softening the soil that you're dealing with than any other thing you could possibly even imagine applying. That is the secret to a softer soil, not a gypsum, not any other treatment in a bottle. It's getting something growing on it and then maintaining the agronomics of that plant that you have growing on it. You may not even be growing turfgrass. You may be growing dwarf mondo. Again, approach it from an agronomic standpoint, and you will make monumental impacts on improving the soil in that scenario. Andrew Bracken said, I want to put a putting green in my backyard. I have Tifway and have put a putting green in at my previous yard using the existing Tifway. This time I want to look at a legit dwarf Bermuda. If I get plugs from a golf course when they aerate and use them almost like sprigs, will that work okay? It's hit or miss. And I'll tell you why is Tiff Eagle, whichever one you're going with, it's a very finicky grass to begin with. It's very finicky. Will it plug in and work like sprigs? It's totally a 50-50 shot, and it's not something I feel comfortable saying. I personally have zero experience doing it, so I really don't want to give you an answer saying yes or no. I'm probably not the person to ask, and to be honest, I don't know who to ask. I'd probably reach out to one of those guys at the golf course and see if anybody that works there has taken it and done that and given it the old college try to see what would happen, because I just don't know what would happen. Hey, Pap Knarf, one of my favorite YouTube names. What's up, dude? Low pH soil, what would be the best source of iron? So if you have low pH soil, one of the easiest things that you can go out with would be something like just straight ferrous sulfate monohydrate or ferrous sulfate heptahydrate. You don't have to worry about wild ass chelations and all this stuff. You can run straight sulfates because that would remain soluble in an acid solution for a longer period of time. If you're overly concerned with it and you want to try to mix things up, then you could add a little bit of EDTA chelated iron, right? EDTA chelated iron is going to be stable up to a soil pH of, say, 6.5, 7, somewhere around there. So in your particular instance, EDTA or just straight sulfated, non-chelated nutrients would work fine. You could also do ferrous ammonium sulfate. You could also do ferrous citrate. All of those are going to be about as equally as effective. Does pH affect crabgrass growth and germination? Back in the day, I felt like I read something about this, but I can say over years of playing with it at all kinds of different pH ranges and whatnot, no. No. I feel like there was something I read. I don't know if I was reading an ammonium sulfate study or what it was. But absolutely not. And I mean, pretty much that's why wherever you go across the continental United States, you're going to see massive amounts of crabgrass, whether you're in North Dakota, Iowa, or East Tennessee. It doesn't matter. It's going to be there. Look at that. Columbus Day in Massachusetts tomorrow. That's right. Lushy. I talked to Lushy a little bit earlier, and he told me the same thing. I can't even believe that. Do you know anything about horse racing turf? Do tracks use native grasses for their region, or is there a preferred cultivar that is used? Not sure if this is in your wheelhouse or not. I've never messed with a turf or a grass-based racetrack for horse racing. Everything I have done has been highly specialized sand. Now, I've maintained the grounds outside of these tracks, but I've never actually done a turf track. If I had to guess, they are probably using hybridized cultivars specific for traffic tolerance. So we'll say, for instance, Kentucky bluegrass is going to produce one of the softest surfaces. So if I had to guess, they're going to go with something like a Kentucky bluegrass, maybe a bentgrass or Kentucky bluegrass, probably something like that. And chances are they're going to use the most hybridized they possibly can. Are they going to be using some sort of specialty? No. Any kind of native? Probably not. They're looking to cheat any and every possible success out of that grass they possibly can, and might as well use modern genetics to your advantage. I'm going to overseed a customer's yard, and she asked about the moles in her yard. Would it be better to overseed before you get rid of the moles or after you get rid of the moles, or does it matter? So it depends if his new camera angle. Yeah, I propped it up because for whatever reason, this is getting lower and lower, and I need to reset my stand. And it is, anyway, when I propped it up, it's all cattywampus now. It's terrible. Good looking out there, Jason Trailer. Good looking out. So it depends on, here's really the only thing you can do is I would go ahead and seed it. I would check to make sure you don't have grubs. I would just do a quick check there, see, do you have grubs? If you do have grubs, real easy, because then you can make, at the same time you put down your seed, a grub control application. Easy, 1, 2, bam, done. You're good. You're in the clear. And see how that affects the instances of moles in that property. Chances are it's a 50-50 crapshoot on whether or not it's going to help you or not. And then kind of the second piece is asking about the moles. If you do not have a grub problem, then you've got to figure out how to get rid of them, right? So you're going to have to go the rate of poison, the route of, look at this yard, where's this coming from? The route of poison bait or poison peanuts or traps, however you choose to do it. But I would still get down the seed first and then start trapping them. I would do it all simultaneously to try and give yourself a competitive advantage. Do you prefer a warm season or cool season grass? Well, so what I'm a bigger fan of is picking the appropriate grass type for your climate. I'm in an area that supports warm season grass better than it supports cool season grass, but culturally, cool season grass is the dominant grass here. So from a turf management perspective, I prefer warm season grass because of my climate. If I lived in a cooler place where I knew I would struggle to maintain warm season grass, then my preference would be cool season grass. I don't like battling against nature more than I have to. Turf grass is difficult enough in and of itself. There's a lot of mysteries that you have to uncover and unpack and deal with from a judgment call basis day in and day out, especially working within the confines of different rule sets dictated by budgets or corporate or wherever the case may be. It has enough challenges as it is. I don't particularly enjoy just adding layers of complexity for the sheer thrill of it. If it was my own property, yeah, I could get a little squirrely with it, squirrely count. But outside of my own property, I just, no. Especially if I'm trying, if this is something I'm doing for money, right? If I'm charging somebody to maintain their property, and I'm trying to convince them that no, you need a perennial ryegrass yard, knowing damn well we're going to have 80 days over 90 degrees during the summer. It just doesn't work. It's not going to cut it. Doesn't pass the sniff test. It's a little over squirrel count too. So I prefer it based on the region in which I am. The region in which I am. The bow shirt. When overseeding, what signs do you look for to give a go-ahead for an herbicide application? Is waiting 2 mows what you'd say? Second question, Bermuda herbicide, a choice for broadleaf. So really it depends. If it can be cut once, normally I feel comfortable making an application. As long as it looks pretty uniformly germinated, I'm not really afraid to spray it with anything as long as it is an herbicide that's tolerant for that turf type. So specifically, if it's tall fescue seed and it's got some broadleaf weeds in it, and I go grab some triplet off the shelf, I feel perfectly fine applying that to young grass. Now, what I'm not going to go do is grab something experimental and run a risk with some, 6 ounce per acre rate of sulfentrazone on a young grass type. So, I kind of just employ some common sense there that if you have experience with it and you've never seen it cause any kind of injury at the rates you've been applying, chances are if your seed's up, uniform, you got it all filled in where you want it, then you can go ahead and make your application and call it good. The second question, Bermuda herbicide of choice for broadleaf. So I would use the one I just mentioned, like triplet would be a good choice. any of your generic three-way herbicides would be perfectly fine here. Considering that the Bermuda hasn't gone dormant yet, I would not be going out with anything too aggressive as far as like a triclopyr or a fluroxapyr. That could get a little squirrely count 3, a little squirrely. Especially watching it come out of dormancy next year, it would definitely delay things coming out of dormancy next year. So I would just be a little careful there, a little careful. But like I said, broadleaf herbicides like a generic three-way are going to be a good start for things. If you do have to kick it up a notch, I would probably add just incredibly low amounts of something like fluroxapyr, maybe, if I absolutely need it. If I don't, I would try and avoid it at all costs. If I need to add something, I'd start with three-way, then I would add carfentrazone. And then if I really need another knockdown, I'll add sulfentrazone. Regarding splitting irrigation timing to maximize water infiltration rates on clay soil, what has the research shown about how long to separate irrigation time to properly take in that water? It doesn't, because it's all going to vary case by case. So, it's all going to vary. I'm not aware of any charts or anything that's out there that says, if you have 42% clay, you need an irrigation time of this rate to gauge infiltration, because it's not just the percentage of clay you have. It's going to be the percentage of air you have in your soil, the amount of macro and micropores you have in your soil, the amount of organic matter you have in your soil. All of those will affect infiltration rates. So there's probably an infinite number of variables to take into consideration. Therefore, it's not something that's necessarily just an easy guide that you can run one way or another. It kind of is what it is, and you have to sort it out on your own property. So you'll have to make your run it for a specific period of time, see how long it takes to infiltrate. How much water runoff are you getting at 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes, 12 minutes, 15 minutes? And then, let that percolate into the soil, infiltrate into the soil, and then make your repeat application. But here's the thing: when you make your second application, your second watering, your infiltration rate is going to be way less than your first watering is, more than likely. And so you'll have to gauge for that, and then do like a declining rate of a length of time for watering. Pete Steffi said, okay to spray iron on 6-week-old grass to darken. Already applied 2 rounds of X-Star and a round of Milorganite last week. Wow, that is a significant amount of phosphorus you've applied there, Pete. Yes, you could. You totally can. In my opinion, I would not. I would definitely give that a chance to. Especially if you just applied Milorganite last week, that means you already put down some iron. Now you're going to spray iron on top of it, and you've already put down 2 rounds of X-Star and a round of application. You put down 3 applications in 6 weeks. That's a lot. I would give that a moment to do its thing. I would totally be patient there. Back off. I would stop trying to darken it up. It's baby grass at 6 weeks. It's not supposed to be that dark green. What you're going to end up doing by spraying all that iron on top of it is tying up all that phosphorus that the baby grass wants to use to establish. So I surely would not be doing that. I have a super hard compact area, 3 foot by 5 foot, and it is bare. It's been 3 years. I cannot get my Bermuda to spread over it. What's the best way? I've used RGS, Humic, top dress, etc. North Carolina clay. I would literally plug into that spot. The other thing too is, what was there previously? Did you have a stack of tires there? Was a bunch of acetone spilt there? There's lots of different things that could have been put down right there that are causing problems for over a long period of time. Was a board placed over it? If you had, like a piece of plywood that was set there for an extended period of time, that area of the soil may have become hydrophobic. So what I would do is actually pull plugs out of the yard and plant it in there. Get you a cup cutter like they use on a golf green when you set a new cups to put into. do you some cup cutters, put you some plugs in there, and watch what happens. If you get real mysterious and nothing looks like it's working, or all those die, even though you keep them watered, the next thing I would do is test that area to figure out what exactly is in it, because literally Bermuda will grow on top of anything. And if it's not running into that area, something is probably going, well, I can see it refusing to run into that area because it doesn't have enough water in that area. So that would be the biggest contributor to not run into that area. And then from that point is where I would work on doing some plugs. All right, my son. I love you, buddy. Night night, sweetheart. I love you. Good night to the kids. Telling it's just built into the streaming software. I have no control over it. I mean, I do, but there's so many different notifications on the streaming software. It gets squirrely count 4. I got fescue growing in the crack of concrete right now. Exactly. So, again, that's just totally my thing with that spot, Nate, is that chances are it's resisting water, it's resisting the infiltration of water. Therefore, the Bermuda is not going to grow into it. Force it by literally plugging it into it. Ryan DeMay is going hard in the paint. That's what I am talking about. Wait, man, it jumped to the bottom. Let me get back to you here. Running some Gib acid, going out with Endurant on the Bermuda. Low 30s coming late week, and 3 weeks left in football season. Maybe I'm an idiot, and I trust you to tell me. Actually, I think that's perfectly fine. I don't see anything wrong with that. I'm thinking it through. I got nothing. I think you're good to go right there. There's nothing about that seems funny, seems weird to me. Does not trip the squirrel counter. I think we're all good. I think you're good. I think that's a great idea. I get why you're throwing the Gib acid in there, and I love it. And I think that's really smart and brilliant, actually, to try and force a little bit of that leafiness. Especially with the Endurant going down. I worry about it kind of limiting the color on the Endurant, because you're going to have so much more leaf tissue, but that's going to be on the new growth. And so it's probably going to blend in pretty well until you have the 30s come in, or you hit a frost, then you get your tiger striping. But the color should be, I think it's good. I think it's totally good there. Anything I need to do during the fall to help St. Augustine keep overtaking Bermuda? Leave the grass tall. That's going to be your best bet. Yeah, I think you would be good to go there. I am in Massachusetts. When should my last urea be? And also, when should I time my last lime application? Kind of pick your poison there. I would wait until things really start to slow down growing, and before the ground freezes. Obviously, you don't want to be spreading fertilizer or lime on frozen ground. So, either one of those are going to work well for you. Normally, as a general rule of thumb, I'd say things stop growing here sometime around mid-December. And so I'm normally applying up until, December 31st, right? So, so normally I'm running, last application of ammonium sulfate from November 15th through the end of the year is about my window to get it done, knowing that things completely cease growing in mid-December. That's kind of my time frame, if that helps you make your decision there. Matt, my soil pH is right where I want it at 6.5, but I'm using about 4 pounds per 1,000 of ammonium sulfate to push growth at the end of the season. Do I need to counter this with lime? Not necessarily. How much of an effect is that going to have? It'll be relatively minimum. There's going to be a chart in the ammonium sulfate video I did that will talk about how much acidifying power those rates will have. And I think once you get up to about 20 pounds, that's when it can start to move the needle a little bit. At 4 pounds per 1,000, I don't think you're creating enough of an issue there to even warrant worrying about it at all. What broadleaf herbicide can I use on a perennial rye on Bermuda when the Bermuda doesn't go fully dormant? Don't want to cause any issues in spring. Again, another generic three-way, triplet, or what are some of the others? Three-way herbicides. Triad. So hell yeah. This evening's show is presented by the fine folks at FTP and G. Yes, that is totally some inside baseball there. And I tell you what, I got a sound effect for that one. Thank you, good sir. Triad Vessel is another one. Trimex 992 is another one. Those are all generic three-way herbicides that'll work well for you. Also, can you use spectacle on newly overseeded ryegrass on Bermuda? Just wondering if you've ever done it. I have never done it, and the label will tell you that it will kill the grass. John Pinkerton says cool season grass is greater than all. John Pinkerton! I'm just teasing, man. I'm just teasing. Will X-Oil help ground that has had the topsoil removed? William Jordan, yeah, it will, because it's kind of like taking a multivitamin for the soil. It's going to have a little bit of N, a little bit of P, a little bit of K, and a lot of the other things that go into making up soil that was lost when all the topsoil was harvested. So it's an immediate source of organic matter with NPK and a whole slew of micronutrients and amino acids are going to be great for stimulating the performance of the plant, even in adverse conditions. What are you doing, Connor Ward? Are you... the Biden snip test. I thought you were stuck doing your math homework. I didn't want to interrupt you. If you do need help, feel free to ask in the chat here. I'm sure there's enough math majors in here to help you out. If you ain't busting, you ain't trusting. Seeded annual rye like a boss. It's lime green and not taught. MD Basson, let me tell you, I feel you, sir. I have watched so many people seed annual ryegrass and just have just the funkiest yellow, beautiful, uniform, thick, wet, hard to mow, bog down your mower, yellow grass you have ever seen. And it's an interesting sight to see during winter. So, you know what? Kudos to you, good sir, for having the testicular fortitude to get after it like that. Evening. Found out today what happens when you don't add citric acid to water first before adding humic acid, orange scented rock salt. Wow, when you don't add it to water first. Oh, yeah. Yes, it will do that. You have to mix into water. You cannot do that the other way around. What's kind of interesting, if you want to make your own fulvic acid, what you can do is take your humic acid, add citric acid to it, and then harvest the water off the top, right? So if you take just a concentration of humic acid that has a known amount of fulvic acid in it, right? So this is just a KOH extracted linardite, right? You add citric acid to that and a healthy amount to that, right? Because you want to bring the pH down pretty low, bring it down to like a 2 or a 1, something like that. The humic fraction will all come out of solution, and that'll be your orange scented rock salt, or in most instances that I see it as just a doo-doo sludge that forms on the bottom, and you'll get this clear-like looking tea on top, and you can harvest that off, and that's your fulvic acid, because at low pHs, right? When you're adding citric acid, you're lowering the pH. At low pHs, the fulvic fraction is still soluble. The humic fraction is no longer soluble, and therefore will fall out. But you got to use a lot. It's better with a strong acid, but this is not something I recommend for everybody. But something like a hydrochloric acid or a sulfuric acid or a nitric acid. But again, I'm not telling anybody to use either of those three products right there. Tenacity didn't even phase clover. It said FU tenacity and kept growing. That sounds about right. And that's why, again, in my opinion, in my experience, I've never been just thrilled with tenacity. There's never like me. I've just applied it and I've been like, you know what? That is one of the ones it is my new go-to is tenacity. Never has. It's got a place on the shelf. It's a tool in the toolbox, but it is not a smoking gun by any stretch of the imagination. Is the only option to get rid of clump fescue is killing it with glyphosate and replanting grass seed? Brian Fuller, it depends on the grass type you have. If you have Bermuda grass or Zoysia grass or centipede or St. Augustine, nope, I can give you a list of ways to kill it. But if you have perennial ryegrass and you're trying to get rid of it, if you have Kentucky bluegrass and you're trying to get rid of it, yes, that is going to be the only way to do it. Hey, Matt, ever since the beginning to adjust my soil pH with elemental sulfur and citric acid, my lawn has gotten super dark green without me applying any iron. Why is this happening? Is it because nutrients have suddenly been available to the plant to uptake? Yes, 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 yes. So citric acid, when you apply, so here's the thing: all the iron and the other and other micronutrients that exist in your soil have oxidized. They are in an oxide form that is a solid that is no longer soluble. Therefore, the plant will struggle to take it up. When you apply citric acid, it will solubilize those oxides, put them into solution, and thus the plant can take it up. Because if it does not dissolve in water, the plant can't take it up. That's how the plant takes up nutrients. It takes up nutrients by sucking up water into the plant, and therefore whatever nutrients are dissolved in that water is what will make it into the plant. So when you apply citric acid to something that can solubilize a lot of these micronutrients at these low pHs, right? All of a sudden it solubilizes it, and you get this pretty significant uptake where this material has not been available before, and now all of a sudden it is. And kind of the thing is, Ben, is that is not necessarily just this magical super dark green. That's the way it's supposed to look. I mean, that's legit how it's supposed to look if your soil pH was all the time at like a 5.8 or a 6.0. That's how it would normally look. Hey, Matt, I've heard tenacity and triclopyr together will knock out bentgrass in 1 or 2 apps. I'd like to selectively take it out if possible. I was wondering what your thoughts were. I don't know. I've never done it. I've done Pilex and tenacity over top of bentgrass, 3 applications, even 4 applications with no success. So I doubt it. But by all means, give it the old college try and let me know how it works out for you. I've heard about a wetting agent called Firm Up. It's supposed to help with penetration and increase firmness and also reduce wet spots. I'm over 40. Can I take this internally? Dale, you, sir, win this evening. You got me with that one. That was good, sir. I would be real careful spraying that on your yard. All these people talk about afraid of having firm soil. They want softer soil. That will be the opposite of that. But boy, that is funny. Hey, Matt, I bought a wood chipper. Any worries of adding freshly ground mulch to flower beds? Should I be concerned about around spreading mulch new plants? Nitrogen robbing? Yes, you should be concerned, especially coming right out of a wood chipper like that. That doubt the wood has had a chance to fully break down and begin to compost. That's why when you see these mulch piles at these companies, they oftentimes will just randomly catch on fire because they're composting there, and they get to a certain temperature and it starts to slow down. As it composts, it starts to slow down that rate of nitrogen robbing that takes place. So if you are going to do that, make sure you fertilize the plants real nice and strong like prior to adding down your freshly ground mulch. Or mulch, or wood chip it and let those piles sit for a good bit and oddly fertilize the piles. You would be shocked. Fertilize the piles. It will kind of accelerate things and get things real hot. I've got 2 neighbors that let me take over their lawn, so I got frisky and made them Bermuda. As far as general weed control, am I pigeonholed into triplet, or is they better broadleaf option? Once it's dormant, yeah, you're kind of opened up there as far as what you can do, but until it's dormant, yes, you are pigeonholed into triplet. Not a lot you can be going out with until it goes fully dormant. You have to remember you're in the transition period, and during that transition period, you're kind of sucked into very few things. You could have quinclorac, that would be fine. You could have carfentrazone, that would be fine. Sulfentrazone would work as well too. So you definitely do have some options, but during transition, it's best to just be as light as possible. Let it go dormant, the Bermuda underneath go dormant, and then you can really start to rock and roll on it. Tenacity knocked out bentgrass for me in 1 max app. Good. I'm glad that was got it for you. It never has been able to do it for me. Golly. I jumped to the bottom again. Where am I? Here we go. Matt, Zone 7, New Jersey. Have you ever heard of this Tahoma 31 Bermuda grass for cool season grass? If so, wanted to know skinny. Yes, lots of people are using Tahoma 31. It is all over the place right now. Everybody's using it. And as far as using it up in Zone 7 in New Jersey, I don't think there would be any problems with it. I know someone in... Where's Columbus, Ohio? Ryan, what zone are you in there? It's definitely lower than Zone 7, so it's probably a Zone 6A or maybe even a 5B if I had to guess. And he manages Tahoma just fine there. He's not your average lawn care operator either, but he has been able to maintain it there, no problem. So I would think in Zone 7, in Zoysia, I think you'd be fine there. I had a similar hard spot, plugged in Bermuda, and the alpha grass is winning. There we go. Pro Plugger is a good plugging tool. Plugs are a little on the small side, but good enough and cheap. Very good. Very good. T31 is a Tahoma 31. It is still a warm season grass. It is not a cool season grass. It has a little bit better tolerance, a little bit higher tolerance for cool weather than some of the other hybridized Bermuda grasses. I have one customer who didn't want to pay me to keep Bermuda out of their flower bed, so I just let it grow straight over the mulch field in less than a season. Bermuda is the gift that keeps on giving, but yeah, if you have a spot that won't grow, try watering daily for like 2 weeks and get back to me. That is funny. Boy, that Tahoma, can you get it in seed? No, you have to get it in sprigs. Best cold tolerant Bermuda then for seed. I don't know as far as the different varieties for seed. Yeah, I do not know. I'm just guessing. Maybe Riviera. What is the one Paul was using? I can't remember what it was. I don't know. I honestly do not know. I've seen the Princess series used here in Knoxville. I've seen the Riviera used here in Knoxville, and both those are beautiful and have done well here, but that's the only one I know. Nate, I see you throwing fireballs out there. I see you, Nate. I see you, nasty Nate, throwing fireballs. Is Langbenite any good? Would you recommend it on St. Augustine? I'm trying to remember which one is that. Is that magnesium sulfate Langbenite? Yeah, that is magnesium sulfate. Oh no, this is sulfate. This is sulfomag, sulfate of potash of magnesia. Yeah, it's good if you need potassium and magnesium in a single application. If you don't need magnesium, I'm telling you, don't go applying it just for grins and giggles, because you can make the ground extremely hard. A lot of times when these people are talking about how they have these hard clays and their ground's so hard and it's impenetrable, you can't even get a screwdriver in it. It's the worst clay you've ever seen. It's not even clay. It's just high in magnesium, and it just produces a very, very tight soil. So if you don't need magnesium, don't go applying magnesium, kind of sort of thing there. My St. Augustine didn't come out of dormancy till June or July. When it did come out, it started filling in so quick, I've almost gotten rid of all the bare spots. That's pretty aggressive there. And I would say we had that little bit of a weird winter with green up and then cool, and then green up and cool made things a little bit tough. I seeded annual round on Monday with Milorganite. I had to mow it by Saturday. Golly, why is the freaking cat? Tell my wife to come get her animal out of here. Wait, X-Soil is like a multivitamin. Can I use it to replace my Flintstone chewables? Please do, and let me know how that works, Daniel. In fact, if it works out good for you, I'll give it a whirl too. For the clicks. Just for the clicks. Hey, Matt, what kind of space can one expect tall fescue to fill in with enough nitrogen? An inch, 2, or 3? Yes, I would say 2 to 3 inches is realistic, and I wouldn't just go the nitrogen route. Cat, what are you doing? What are you doing? Get over here. It's about to hang on the green screen. What a nutcase. I looked at her. She's about to claw into it. My goodness. Yes, as far and really NPK. Make sure you're not favoring nitrogen for the others. Go NPK, and yes, you would be shocked at how much it would indeed actually fill in. Do you have a recommendation amount of X-Soil to apply to said soil? Yeah, so I just follow label instructions, and label instructions are 10 to 20 pounds per thousand. Just follow the label on it. Any suggestion for torpedo grass infestation in Bermuda? Yes, I believe Manuscript, the new one, is labeled for it, but you can also go the route of quinclorac. Striper Man, what are you doing, good sir? Good to see you in here. It's past your bedtime, Striper Man. What are you doing? Quinclorac also works on torpedo grass well, so repeat applications and structured in there together will work out for you. Is it safer to spray broadleaf under tree canopy after the leaves fall versus spraying before the fall? It depends on your temperature, right? So normally what you're looking for is potential for temperature inversion, and then also what is the other one? High temperature for volatilization. So you know, in cooler weather, as long as you're not blazing 90 degrees outside, then yeah, you can spray underneath the canopy of a tree, no problem. If you're close to 90 degrees, don't go doing it. You know what I mean? Just hold off, let the leaves fall, and then go after it. You know, be patient with the weeds for a little bit. But I gotta say, this time of year, you know, it's been mid 70s, upper 60s every day here. Nope, I'd be rocking and rolling, not thinking twice about it. Can you over fertilize rhizomatous tall fescue here in Northeast Ohio? Full reno. X started seeding, then again 3 weeks after germination. Now 2 weeks later, looking to do 1 pound per 1,000 per month to encourage growth. Thoughts? Yeah, you can do it, but as cool as you're going to be, you're going to lose more than you're going to get a benefit out of it. Hey, dog, what are you doing unnecessary, sir? I know people love the fall nitrogen blitz and have fun doing all that fun stuff, but really, I'd say just apply 2 pounds in the fall. However you plan on doing that, you can do it in 2 applications. You can do it in 4 applications, however you want. But 2 pounds in the fall is going to be about max as far as what you can get in after seeding, right? 2 pounds. So, if you were planning on doing, 1 pound per month now, December, January, February, March, that's real silly because half of it, 99, I would say realistically, 75% of it's not going to release until next spring anyway. And then you're just going to get this massive flush out of nowhere that's really going to make you very uncomfortable at the rate at which it's growing. But as far as are you going to salt it out? Are you going to cause damage due to the salt index of the fertilizer? Applying at 1 pound per 1,000 per month? No, not at all. Is clumping tall fescue a remnant of an older yard that was seeded with Kentucky 31 in the 50s or 60s? What do you think? Effing stuff is ugly. So clumping tall fescue, there is really any tall fescue is a clumping variety. But when you're seeing, some of these other varieties, a lot of those are pasture grasses, right? So used as part of erosion control for roadside vegetation, uses as part of like hay production. That's a lot of times where you see it most commonly used. Could it be left over from the 50s or 60s? Could be. But chances are where it's growing on a roadside or something, the birds are picking the seeds off the ground as they go to seed or eating the seeds, or someone's eating the seeds, and then they're getting doo-dooed in your yard, and there you go. If I do a late overseed and the grass seed doesn't germinate, will it germinate next spring? More than likely. It's not a guaranteed, but probably yes. Transition zone, Northern Virginia, seed for 4,000 square feet, kids' soccer play area. Tall fescue may be too tall, but what do you recommend to keep it 3 inches or a little less? Live on a well, so 2 inches per week may be tough. So you can do a dwarf tall fescue that is commonly used in sports-like scenarios. So that's probably what I would look at. It would be a dwarf tall fescue that's meant to be maintained at 2 inches or less. The other thing you could do, especially if you're in the northern part, you could go Kentucky bluegrass as well. And also, if you're still in the transition zone, you could give a real whirl at Bermuda grass and or a Bermuda grass overseeded with perennial ryegrass in the fall kind of thing. So you definitely have a lot of options there other than just tall fescue. Southern Ohio is 5B. There we go. Golly, all these Ohio people in here. It's unbelievable. Curious if you use Dismiss NXT for anything, what might your thoughts be on it? So these are my thoughts on it. No. I think it is the silliest, most ridiculous herbicide on the market right now. And I'll tell you why. Carfentrazone in and of itself is just a kicker, right? It just makes things that typically work within 3 or 4 days work within 1 day. So Dismiss NXT, you're taking sulfentrazone, which works really quickly, and making it just a little bit faster.
Hell yeah!
Thank you, Tiffway Lawn. Unnecessary. It doesn't make Dismiss work better. It makes sulfentrazone work a little bit faster, but does it need to work faster? In my opinion, it is the stupidest herbicide that has ever been released. And here's the other thing too, you can make it yourself. You can roll it yourself with sulfentrazone and adding a little bit of carfentrazone to it for a fraction of the cost. And experience for yourself how dumb of an herbicide that product is. I'm not hating on you. I'm just saying the logic behind that product to me is just so silly. It is such a half-assed attempt to appease the lawn care professional, right? It just really chaps my ass. How long does a liquid application of humic acid stay working in the soil profile? Nobody knows. It would have been so funny if he just pounced on the green screen and it fell down. That was going to happen. I turned around and looked, and she's got claws out reaching for it. I was like, oh my goodness, what is going to happen? My goodness. Crazy ass cat. What herbicide for POA would you recommend in tall fescue besides tenacity? I would never recommend tenacity to begin with. Ethylfumicate would be my choice. Never tenacity for POA. Not at all. Best management practices for Zoysia in upstate New York. My neighbor and coworker have it, and I can't understand why. So there for a while, Zoysia was offered in magazines that you'd buy these plugs, and they'd send them to you, and they'd plant them. And it's the old Myers Z52 Zoysia that people have growing in their properties up there. Best management practices, you do everything opposite you do to cool season grass in terms of fertility. So with cool season grass, you fertilize in the spring and the fall. With Zoysia grass, you do not fertilize in the spring. You do not fertilize in the fall. You fertilize when it is hot outside. And you fertilize heavy when it's hot outside. But in terms of herbicide applications, you do that the same because the weeds are still on the same growing cycle, but you have to run different herbicides, right? Because not all herbicides that are run on cool season grasses are going to be safe on Zoysia grass. Don't go spraying tenacity on Zoysia grass. Ask me what will happen, or better yet, do not believe me on it and just go try it, just a tiny piece of it, and watch what happens. So when it really starts to warm up and it's starting to turn green, significantly green, and you do not have any obvious freezes or frost in your forecast, get out there, pound it with a good heavy fertilizer application, maybe 2, maybe 3 during the growing season, and then put down your pre-emergence in your spring and fall and call it good, and take care of any weeds in it that you may have. Matt, does tall fescue have a genetic yearly max of nitrogen? Never quite understood the 4 pounds per year recommendations versus the fertilize every 5 to 6 week interval. The two don't seem to align. So no, they do not have a genetic yearly max of nitrogen, but what you do have to take into account is that only a certain amount of nitrogen is going to be able to be used by the plant based on your weather conditions, right? And so normally, depending on where you are, right? If you're in Northeast Maine, that may only be 2 3/4 pounds of N. If you're in Huntsville, Alabama, that may be 4.5, 5 pounds of N that you have a growth probability for, right? It's all about the growth potential of your grass based on your historical weather data. The way they have tried to oversimplify this, they have oversimplified this by calling it just simply 4 pounds per year. There is no genetic yearly. It is all based on weather and the way it's growing, right? So the easiest thing is to go to paceturf.com.
Hell yeah.
Google, thank you, Tiffway Lawn, the cat show. Cuckoo for Necco Puffs. The easiest thing is to actually hop over to Google and type in climate appraisal form. Climate appraisal form. Fill it out for your specific area. Follow the instructions. There's instructions to it. You got to follow them, and you will see what the nitrogen recommendations for your individual area is. I use it all the time, and let me see what I have pulled up here. I thought I had someone. What is this generalized recommendation here? So this is somewhere in California that I had plugged in, and based on the growth potential, right? So I hit 100% growth potential and stay there in this mild, temperate North California climate, and the recommendation over a 12-month period, because this is almost 12 months of full-out growth. The recommendation is 6.6 total pounds of nitrogen per year on tall fescue, and that is perfectly doable because there is no genetic threshold of nitrogen for really any grass. You can start running into issues with the way the grass starts to grow, starts to perform, the density of runners versus how fast they tack down. Like you run into issues with centipede, but even then, that's not really a genetic limit. I guess it is. I guess centipede would be the one you would really need to worry about, and only centipede. As far as I know, maybe buffalo grass too. Matt, I plan to drop a half pound of Carbonex every week on my tall fescue. Any issues with pushing the weekly label rate of subvert depth 10 with it? No, I would probably go every 2 weeks instead of every week. I would go every 2 weeks. Give that a chance to get in and get going, get working before you follow up with the next application. So I would go every 2 weeks instead of every week, Damon. You should be good to rock. I use a local fert here in CBUS that uses micro oxides in their granular. Is that why citric acid is added to the formula to aid in plant availability? Yes, because an oxide would never, ever, ever be a plant available in your Ohio soil. Boy, there you go. Makes sense why it takes me 3 amps of tenacity to burn the PO out. Even then, I've only have it ding it. It's not going to take it out. Let's see. Was there a guy in the Discord? Yes, there was. Who did that? Daniel. He certainly did. It feels really intimidating to be hanging out with the cool kids. All right, everybody, we have reached the end of the show. I want to thank everybody for coming in and hanging out tonight. I had a good time. And by the way, tomorrow is Pick the Doc's Brain. Get ready for that. Oh, wait. No, tomorrow we're going to kibosh the show. We're not going to be able to do it. Ray, I will get with you. Probably we're going to have to do the makeup show on Tuesday because tomorrow I cannot do the show. I've got to be out and go do some craziness. I can do some real craziness tomorrow. And so tomorrow, no show, but Tuesday, I will follow up. Look, the cat's back! The cat! Come here. Come here. What is the cat doing? I don't know what's going on here. Is she okay? I dropped a piece of plastic in my water. Unbelievable. All right, everybody. Y'all have a fantastic evening. We'll see you on Tuesday.